Today, the Lambeth Conference formally began with a simply fabulous worship service in ancient Canterbury Cathedral. 650 bishops in procession, thousands of participants in the service, wonderful music. Two real highlights for me were the gospel procession by a group of folks from Melanesia in native dress processing the gospel in a model outrigger canoe and dancing and chanting as they did so with great joy. It was just wonderful. And then a marvelous sermon by the Bishop of Sri Lanka, who challenged us to do three things as Anglican bishops. One, to discipline ourselves, to examine our own consciences and our own behaviors, that we might see the speck in our own eyes before we talked about the timber in others, who invited us to be a fully inclusive church so that everyone was truly and is truly welcome. And then thirdly, to be a prophetic voice for justice. And he reminded us that that is our highest calling as a church. He repeated the words of Archbishop William Temple, that the church is the only institution that exists for others. And this, he said, is the very heart, the very soul of Anglicanism. After that long service, we dashed back to campus and made it in time for a quick lunch and then for the opening of the conference itself. And we heard all about what's expected over the next 2 weeks. We learned about the conversation process, the Indaba process, and the ways in which data will be gathered from all of the bishops' presence so that it may be included in a final reflection and statement on the conference. We also heard Archbishop Rowan Williams' presidential address, in which he talked about his vision for the Anglican communion as a communion of counsel and of covenant, a communion in which we agree to consult with one another and to be patient and respectful of one another in decision making. So it was a very full day. At the end, Gretchen and I finally had a meal other than in a cafeteria and went into Canterbury with a few friends for a meal in a restaurant. And it was really quite wonderful and a great end to the day. Tomorrow, the work of the conference begins.